First, I would introduce the panelists, then go to some pretty short kickoff remarks, and then the floor is of our distinguished panelists. So the title of our panel is Global Economies and Geopolitical Tensions in the Trump Era. So this is the reality that we are living in, and we will approach this topic from different perspectives. President Trump's Liberation Day announcement introduced a new era of deteriorating global governance in international trade, and its protectionism is back into the world. What we can experience these days is that the tissue of globalization, global trade is more fragile than we thought before. What we experience is changes in supply chain, access to critical material, technological and economic dominance is changing, and geoeconomics. Please take your seat, Ambassador. Geoeconomics merged with geopolitics in an unstable, uncertain world. So I'm Peter Krakow. I'm a fellow here at IASC and also an associate professor at ELTE University. And to my right, we have Veronika Wittmann from Johannes Kepler University of Linz in Austria, who will be the keynote speaker of this panel. And we have other distinguished panelists here, Mladen Andrlić, the Ambassador of Republic of Croatia to Hungary. And we have another ambassador here, Ambassador Keynote from the Ambassador Republic of Korea to Hungary. And last but not least, we have Tamás Pesuth from Corvinus University of Budapest, Hungary. So we have a packed panel with brilliant experts. Our ambassador guests are not only ambassadors, but top intellectuals teaching law and political science in universities. So I would just kick off by saying a few words as opening. So what we can experience these days in global politics is, first of all, hard power dominates and soft power is a bit pushed into the background in geopolitics. According to the 2025 Democracy Perception Index that came out recently, in the global public opinion, China have just become more popular than the United States. So the US-dominated era of soft power is pretty much over. United States' rating was at -5 point from a +100 on a +100, -100 scale, which means that the majority of the global public opinion regards the United States as a negative player. It hasn't been this way, not even in the first Trump administration. China is at 14 points, so the gap is pretty high. And the key topic of our discussion is more the economic aspects. So when it comes to hard power, I think there were some discussion about the military elements. In this panel, we will predominantly talk about the economic elements. So as a result of the tariffs that has been introduced to the United States, just a few of the figures. It's a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum imports, which was doubled to 50% across all trade partners. 25% tariffs were introduced on imported cars, 10% universal tariffs on most imports to the United States, 25% fentanyl tariff, and additional 34% reciprocal tariffs with China. And as an impact, what we can see is that right now 71% of all the goods imported to the United States are having additional tariffs to the ones that they have seen before. And according to some estimates, it will hit the American consumers hard, with about $3,000 annually taken out of their pockets, which might have political consequences as well. And what impact it has on Europe, according to some estimates, there is about -0.5 percentage point that the Eurozone has to face as a reduction of growth as a result of all that. So the main questions what we are going to deliver, or discuss what impact these measures can have on global economy, on the Indo-Pacific in general, South Korea in particular, on Europe in general, and countries in the Western Balkans and Croatia in particular, what impact it could have on Hungary as well, and can the economic and geopolitical harm coming hand in hand can be reduced through cooperations circumventing the United States. So without further ado, I would give the floor to Veronika to deliver her opening remarks, and I would ask for all our presenters. Veronika would talk for 15 minutes, and the rest of presenters I would ask to talk for not more than 10 minutes to have enough room for discussion. So Veronika, the floor is yours.
Well, is this working? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be among all of you and to have a little insight. Actually, I will not talk so much on economy, only a little bit, but I will mainly talk from the perspective of someone who actually spent very little time in Europe. I just talked to His Excellency before. I spent large time of my life on the African continent. I worked for United Nations in Latin America. I've been to Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, Taiwan. So I always have the perspective from the outside of this beautiful continent we are all living in. And actually what I intend to do is, it is a little bit linked to what we had already in the discussions today. So I will reflect on this notion of old terms and new worlds and mainly look at the global political challenges that we are facing. And my first image that I want to share with you, it's more like an idea, is to, first of all, we will have this notion and talk on who is global north, who is global south, European Union, maybe on the economic downfall, and so on and so on. And I would like to point a little bit to these so-called blind spots. I'm not saying within Europe people should not discuss what's going on in Europe, but please be aware what's going on outside of the continent, because otherwise you can get absolutely lost. So this is just like an unpublished quotation I put at the front of my talk, that the cartographers of the world are not only unaware of the fact that entire continents are unknown to them, but they also assume that what they know is the world. And this is precisely what distorts the view. You know, leaving the blind spots out. And this is an assumption of the cartography of the world, and I will assume this for the future scenario as well. We had this discussion in the first panel actually today. State of the art, just a short insight. Actually, if I look at contemporary world, China is already the strongest economy in the world in local power purchase parity, no discussion about it. China is extending academic article journals, is having the high number of patents, and I mean this is clear. It's been labeled Asian Pacific Century or Indo-Pacific Century. We have an extremely power shift taking place in economic and in political terms. After the millennium, we have this talk on the G2 world. We have these forms of club governance on the rising. I was just like recently in Nigeria as well in Brazil. They are all like members now of this BRICS Plus community. And I heard yesterday a colleague talking, yes, they want to work so much with Europe. I'm quite often at conferences in the global south, and I can tell you the different story. They talk openly. Yes, internationalization, but not the Western way. So Europe really needs to work hard to get interesting partners on board. Don't be blind on this eye. Just to mention the world's largest regional organizations they have, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, covering 80% of the landmass on the Euro-Asian continent, as well as half of humanity. We should not forget this. We have the member states here and some dialogue partners. And of course, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is dominated by China, like the BRICS are. So there's a clear global player. Just to give you a little bit on insight, I was looking on Le Monde Diplomatique, a map of the world from the year 2012 called the Atlas of Globalization. And it was for me very, very interesting to see For this post-millennium era, already 13 years ago, what we label as the West, North America, Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and Japan, is called here the old empires. So they don't talk about, we are like so brand new and we're innovative and so on and so on. We are here already labeled as the old empires. The egg you see here on the cartography of this map is the so-called Asian egg, presenting 2/3 of humanity. We should somehow not forget, by all this talk on who is doing what kind of militarization, North America and Europe is 10% of humanity. 75% of humanity live on the African continent or on the Asian continent. Just to get, these kind of figures, or to keep this in mind. And the people are brilliant. They're genius. They have brilliant ideas. There's no discussion. This is only happening in Europe, to have some clever minds. I will now, in a very short way, present you 3 future scenarios on global challenges. We had the colleague from the Defense Ministry here in the morning. It was very interesting to listen to him. He was referring to the World Economic Forum as well. I'm referring here as well to the World Economic Forum, the so-called global risks map. I like actually this because it's not only scientists being there, at the meetings, it's not only people from Realpolitik, it's not only businessmen, it's people from the media, it's a diverse group of people. And they are asked, what are the global risks in terms of likelihood and in terms of impact? And it's quite clear, and the colleague has been mentioning it, this is not some fancy technology or cyber fraud or cyber attacks, that the people mention as the main global risks. It's loss of biodiversity and global warming. And this, I heard yesterday the question from a young colleague here. We cannot give you a positive picture. This is clear. This was the lady from UN, resilience. This is the only thing we can teach the young generation. This is going to be very cruel. And this is affecting all of humanity. These global risks are interconnected, and just to present you, not to get very triste, a positive picture on these global risks. Of course, we could see it with the COVID-19 pandemic. This new coronavirus did not say, this is like a border now. This is Slovakia, this is Hungary, this is Austria, I don't cross the border. This is nonsense. All of these risks are global by nature. And just to have one, I will quit a little bit to save time here. All of these global risks are actually crossing borders. And we have the main distinction here. This is a model of a world risk society in cosmopolitan ideas. Ulrich Beck, a German sociologist, was presenting it to us. He gives us actually a positive picture on the global risks. He says, a risk is the anticipation of a catastrophe. So if you have a nuclear power plant, like in Fukushima, there is the danger it can explode. If it explodes, you have the catastrophe. We had Chernobyl on the European continent, 1986. So what is brand new? I mean, humanity has been living always with risks. This is not, risk has been part of, we had wars going on forever, ever if you think, or industrial, blah, blah, blah. But there are 3 global risks which he identifies. The first one is global warming. The second one is financial disasters, economic turmoils. Even the richest country in the world, Liechtenstein, a very nice little country, without military on the European continent, very rich country, Liechtenstein alone cannot handle it. The biggest military force in the world cannot handle it. You need to have cooperation partners for this. And, of course, transnational terrorism. ISIS and Al-Qaeda, this is transnational par excellence. ISIS had a quasi-state already. So this is something like terrorism only being a regional or a national agenda. These times are a long time over. The global risks have 3 main characteristics. I will very be short on this. They are delocalized. So climate change is not only happening in Burkina Faso and in Bangladesh, but in Belgium as well. Of course, they are different by their vulnerability, how they can react to it. Then, of course, it's temporal issue. Nuclear waste, there is a discussion going on. This will not only affect our younger generation here, but your grandchildren, and so on and so on. And of course, The financial crisis, it's a social issue. South Korea can deal differently with it than, I don't know, Niger in Africa, no? So this is very, very different. Then another issue, they are non-compensable. So if we lose a plant or an animal, there's no way we can create just like a second-hand animal or a second-hand plant. The loss of biodiversity, much more dangerous for humanity than climate change, and they are incalculable. The biggest assurance companies in the world, Münchner Rückversicherung, they will not cover it and assure it for you. So actually this could give us a bit of a trees picture, but Ulrich Beck is putting in a normative agenda here, and he actually says, this global risk force us, whether we like it or not, to learn to cooperate. This is the moment I would see the diplomats, excellent diplomats, coming in, because they know how to deal, like in a conflict scenario, in a peaceful manner, and not by military force. Actually, Kant, I will later on talk a little bit on Kant as well, was reminding us. In German, he said, die Not zwingt zur Einsicht. The need that compels the insight, and we are enforced to have international cooperation, and of course the people do this in a long-term scale as well as a global civil society. So there is a paradoxon with these global risks. Here in the picture, Ulrich Beck actually presents it to us in World Risk Society. If these global risks were not there, they would need to be invented, because they make us force to learn to cooperate if we don't want the end of the human species. That might be another option. But he is giving us a positive future scenario. The next one, and I'm very happy to be among scientists and diplomats here, is a very positive future scenario, not only because I'm working in science since 26 years now. I think science is the same like art. Science is universal in terms of its norms and its values. Science has rationality, transparency, universality. They are the same across the globe. And scientists can continue to work together even if realpolitik closes some doors. And they can build trust for future governments. The same, of course, science is perceived as a global public good. If we make scientific research, we don't do it for Austria or for European Union. At the end of the day, it's universal, what we do in research. Joseph Nye, he has been mentioning today quite often with the term of this soft power. Unfortunately, he died recently. But of course, this is what the Trump administration forgets. Countries have, beside this hard power, militarization and so on and so on. There is another leg that they stand on, and this is a very important leg, soft power. I'm not surprised that, for instance, China has built up on the huge African continent, and they are double the number of states than European Union. The African Union has 54 states. They have built across the continent Confucius Institute. Of course, this is soft power. They give scholarships to students. The African students don't go to European Union or North America, they go to China because they offer them excellent scholarships. And science, and this is something I think we as scientists have to be aware, is free by definition. We have a lot of countries where it's in the constitution, academic freedom. And my future scenario, science has always been working for the better of humanity. Two short historic examples, Antarctica Treaty. This was the height of geopolitical tensions, signed in 1959. Colleagues from geography forced the people from realpolitik to sign this treaty. There is no military use allowed. All inspections are open to other stations, free investigation of scientific plans. This is an absolutely different picture than we have from the North Pole, from the Arctic, where all the neighboring countries already look for resources and so on and so on. Another one, I think this is very, very contemporary now, Albert Einstein, Bertrand Russell, the same, the height of geopolitical tension between US and Soviet Union. They managed to get their real politicians on board and say, if you keep on like this with nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction, you're gonna kill humanity. And they managed to set up this Russell-Einstein manifesto with this famous word, remember your humanity and forget the rest. And the Pugwash conferences, they are still active today. We should think of this as well. No, it's not the whole world is not talking on militarization. Even the vast majority of the states of this world, with the 193 states, 120 states are members of the non-aligned movement, where former Yugoslavia was like a really big player to set up the non-aligned movement. So this is also not the majority of the states putting in. The Pugwash conferences gained the Nobel Peace Prize for their work in '95. I will maybe switch this. This is an interesting discussion. Unfortunately, the colleague from Security Studies, I think, is at the moment not here. This is this tension between the freedom of science and, you know, in Germany there is a huge discussion to set up this civil clausel. You know, civil research and military research. But I will squint on it just to mention, of course, science. And you see Albert Einstein here saying love is the answer. They always claim for freedom. And of course, people working in ministries or in defense ministries, of course, they have another picture in mind. Maybe to give you one short insight, I had the privilege to be a member of the European Commission on the Science Diplomacy Framework. And I was in the group on the Global Outreach Program because, you know, like my experience on the other continents. And we just published this year a report, a European Framework for Science Diplomacy. And of course, the idea of science integrity is at the center here. European Union wants to foster science diplomacy, and the role of science for keeping an informed dialogue is very, very important, I think, specifically in this time when we have, you know, fake fact, then science is being attacked. This is what we've seen with the Trump administration as well, no? This is how you can demolish democracy. First you attack journalists, then you attack science, no? And then the rest will be coming as well. For a future scenario, I think scientists need to work much more across disciplines. This is what I think in this summer university, I heard someone today saying we are the Disneyland of science here, and we talk with the colleagues from diplomacy, you know, who are much closer to the Realpolitik than we are actually. And maybe I come to my third and last point. And this is, we heard a panel on United Nations just before. On this beautiful European continent, and in this sense, you know, I'm proud to be from Europe. Europe has a high human development. We have consolidated democracies. This is something very, very precious. And I know what it means to be in states where the military shoots at students or you end up in some prison and nobody's looking for you for 10 years. Please remember all of us, this man, Immanuel Kant, and his famous writing on perpetual peace. 230 years ago, in the time of absolutism, he was never leaving Königsberg, but he was writing this excellent piece of, he was not a hippie. He was not saying, oh, we are so nice and humans and we hug each other and this is how we are going to have peace. No, it is the rule of law. You need to create republics, the Confederation of Free Republics. This is what we have nowadays as United Nations. So these things are all possible. And just to remind us, if you read UN Charter today, this is the idea of Immanuel Kant in perpetual peace. And of course, this notion of a world citizenship, jus cosmopoliticum. Besides having the rights and the duties being a citizen of a state or a supranational organization like European Union, we are citizens of the world. This is Erasmus von Rotterdam. All these famous philosophers of European Enlightenment. You know, the city of Zurich wanted to give him the citizenship right of Zurich. Say, no, 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 no. I don't want to be a citizen of Zurich. I'm a citizen of the world. This was later on transferred to human rights discussions, which we actually have at the current moment. And just maybe to mention one thing, because it was in the other panel as well, on global migration. This is a really blind spot as well. 80% of global migration is from the global south to the global south. they never reach European continent or North America. This is really a false picture. Of course, the media portrays it in a different way, but if you look at the data we have from UNHCR, International Organization of Migration, this is just like really like countries in the global south take the main responsibility. Of course, time has changed since Immanuel Kant, and just to make here one input, we need an Enlightenment 2.0. The Enlightenment 2.0 is by colleagues of mine, Ernst Ulrich von Weizsäcker, Anders Wittmann. They have been writing a famous report to the 50th anniversary of the Club of Rome. Come on, it's like an appel, to say, oh, get up and stand up, so to say. And their plea for a new enlightenment takes care of nature as a legal identity. I've been been working in Ecuador. Ecuador has in its constitution the rivers and the forests as a legal identity already. And this is what Europe, I think, needs to learn. Go beyond this Eurocentric view. Learn what other world regions, the yin and yang principle, of the Hopi tradition from North America, please include all these traditions as well. This is like what cosmopolitanism actually at the end of the day is about. And here I'm very positive, despite all these bad scenarios, ratio, that we can use our ratio is something that is a transtemporal resource. I cannot imagine that humanity is so much more stupid than at the time of Kant, I mean, we might face some difficult, dark times, but I think fostering peace and global cooperation to address these joint challenges is in this sense not only an ethical imperative, but it's simply in everyone's interest. Because if the Matanga soil in Russian Federation is coming up, it will affect all of us. There's no distinction of any border. So here we really need excellent diplomats to think, if we don't want to end up like here, this kind of beam me up, Scotty, there's no intelligent life on this planet. Of course we can prove this as well, to have in these times of polycrisis, anti-enlightenment, realpolitik, to reconsider what is the strength of this European continent and to look beyond this Eurocentric view. And I think we can learn quite a lot from other continents as well. Just to mention, I've been long-term doing research in South Africa. South Africa had 400 years of colonial regime, decades of apartheid system. It was really like the Nazis, apartheid creation. And they managed to transform peacefully. I mean, come on, we have these regions of the world who could actually tell us a lot. How can we keep or maintain peace? So let me just summarize here. These are along these Kantian questions, the main philosophical question, what can I know? This is the contemporary time. We have this indicator, state of the art, What can I do? Ulrich Beck gives us an image here with this World Risk Society. Then the question, what can I hope? This is Enlightenment 2.0, that we have diplomats looking in a planetary view, so to say, not only from a small container nation state and beyond Europe as well. Very, very important. And what is the human? I know some of our young people here are working on artificial intelligence, robots. Of course, this is technological innovations, and I'm very positive actually at the end of the day, they will not steal humans so much. They will enable us a much nicer life. And we will have artificial intelligence at the Security Council of UN. And I'm positive. China is based, Russia is based, US is based. If we manage to set up an artificial intelligence who could talk in a planetary view to have a fair picture, why not take the comment or the ideas of artificial intelligence? What stays with the human up to the end of this century is creativity. No artificial intelligence or robot will ever be as creative as humans are. This is why I put this picture from René Magritte here, Leblanc signature, where you see something is visible and something is invisible. So, of course, a lot of these free future scenarios on global political challenges can turn out like this, or in a darker scenario. I try to portray a positive picture, and maybe we end up with some sprayers like here in the future then. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Veronika, and it was pretty illuminating, I would say enlightening, to hear these rarely optimistic remarks we have these days in all the discussions on gloom and doom. So thank you for bringing in, and also for bringing in the perspective of science diplomacy. Maybe our distinguished diplomats in the panel might be able to connect to that as well. So I would like to ask right now His Excellency Mladen Andrlić to deliver his opening remarks. So, dear Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, professors, dear colleagues, friends, I'm delighted to be here once again and to share with you some of my thoughts, let's say. But prior to that, all the best to you. I mean, Veronika, I mean, like we did it together. You will hear now what I have prepared. It is a bit more conceptual, but with some examples. So I would say, when you're for a couple of years dealing with these international issues, then you come to the more or less same findings or ideas or thoughts. That's why my talk today is, or my address is, okay, it's still in working, but the title would be, "We are at the edge, but still moving." Why? Well, moving, and I hope we are moving ahead towards good goals, fine goals, and better setting. I mean, today we are really faced with a series of in-depth changes and crucial challenges. It goes here, there, and everywhere. It tackles the biggest one, the strongest one, the smallest one, the weakest one, everybody. So you cannot divide north-south. Yes, it goes still. But nevertheless, the changes are so strong. And from day to day, there are changes. Look at our scenario for the conference. From Saturday, everything is different. Now the basic dilemma is it or not the third, I'm not going to say what. That is the major dilemma. Whatever we speak here today, whatever we speak here tomorrow, whatever we discuss or come to, yes or no for something, this basic ultimate dilemma is here. So it changes from day to day, and I'm hoping it will change once again, of course, and this number 3 will pass away. But the complexity and high risk, you were talking about risks, could not excuse us, the actors, from common action. Everybody's trying to take care about itself, or himself or herself. Wrong, absolutely wrong. You mentioned the same. Of course, we do not have to do it in a group like Stampede or something like this. Yes, that's true. What I'm saying. Thank you very much. I can finish now. Okay. But there is a problem that this highly developed and well-integrated transatlantic community does everything not to function. You can go from the strongest, come to the ones who are not so strong within the transatlantic community, and you will see that each and everyone is trying to move its own way. That's not good. And this contributes to this malfunction of the overall atmosphere in the global spheres. Since everybody is looking into transatlantic community as a leader, as a source of leadership, as a kind of yes or no for anything. Today, you don't have strong points where to look at. I mean, Croatia could look at Hungary, Hungary could look at Croatia, and that's all. Where's the way out? Nowhere. So if you stay with yourself, if you go out of your capacities, and our capacities so far as neighboring countries are EU and NATO, what would anyone say about Croatia? Yeah, nice country for vacations or something like this, particularly in this very hot period of time. But tourism, football, and more or less we are at the end. Okay, handball, water polo. Yeah, so, and then what? But what is the key contribution to the international atmosphere? Well, smaller countries like Croatia do not have that possibility. The same goes for Hungary, although being triple or whatever. So whoever is doing to make a rumor within, I would say, transatlantic community now, because I started with this, is not doing well for himself or his nation or his citizens. Because these ambivalent positions are moving into ambivalent situations. So you are losing even those strongholds that you have. It is like, you know, sitting on, there are some cartoons of someone sitting on okay, let's forget this. But, so, on a stablo. Well, someone is sitting on a tree and is doing with the axe. Yeah. So you understand the rest, yes. Well, so coming from this general point of view, I would say the ability to think strategically has become a regular daily skill for any professional. At any level, at all levels. To think strategically, not from day to day, not from in a week period of time, but in a longer horizon. And try to see where you could fit in. This means to analyze, to communicate, and to influence with purpose. And it especially goes for diplomats. They should analyze, communicate, and intervene with purpose. These are the, I mean, there's a number of things that diplomats should or do, or they do. But these three are a kind of, let's say, something which could support the current trembling situation, which could make it more recognizable, let's say. Diplomatic actions are dealing with practical surrounding. They are not on the tree or in the air somewhere. So we should less concentrate on dilemmas between East and West and North and South and conceptual things, but to concentrate on practical dilemmas. For example, regarding the access, regarding the inclusivity and global perspective. Those three things, for example, the access, it goes for the access to the field, namely to contacts and communication in the field, where you should share and compare. That's one thing. And come to the facts, to have the factual analysis, starting point, where you are, in those turbulent times which are this, Secondly, the inclusivity, what does it mean? How do I see it? It goes from becoming a part of the surrounding by reaching common grounds, agreements and partnership. Common grounds, agreements, and partnership. Why? Because you assess the situation, yes. And then you find a more structured problem. So how to cope with this? And you are Croatia or someone who is not US or Mali or Haiti. You should try to find the common grounds not only internally but externally. Where externally? In the regional setting, that's quite obvious. And then goes the agreements. And then out of that, the partnership. Even more, you already have certain partnerships and certain agreements. Why don't you obey them? Everybody is now looking at VTO, you know. You mentioned 25%, 50%, this and that. Okay, yes. As it was introduced, it will go on. It will be gone. It will go on sooner or later, because it's out of usual patterns, let's say, to have something like this, because it has extremely negative effects on both sides, to make the long story short. So for the one who is introducing and the one who is supposed to have the direct effects of such measures and actions. That is why it is something which comes like this and goes like this. Unfortunately, you may tell me that there's a process, this and that. I could agree, more than agree. But as it has came by the parachute, it will go by the parachute. And on the other hand, speaking about the agreements and speaking about the current situation and speaking about Saturday, 2 days ago, for example, just to add what you have mentioned previously, with all the madness in Ukraine, last week's news is that Russia has accomplished free trade agreements with 33 countries in Africa. Full stop. That was the news in media. So with something which does not come to any scenario, any usual pattern of communication, let's call it like that, of international communication, such as is the aggression against the sovereign neighboring state, Russia is providing 33 free trade agreements with 33 countries. What does it mean? You can sort out whatever outcome you want. What is Russia? This in Ukraine or this free trade engagement? That's just this. And the third point that I have found out interesting is this global perspective. Global perspective today, in this intertwined, globalized world, because everybody is leaving now the term global, globalized, this and that, but it's a fact. We still did not reach, I would say, the end. You know, there's a wording that you only die alone. So in this, you should stick to the global perspective, because you cannot stay and stick and continue of pretending to be and function alone. Each and everyone should reach for its niche, at least. But it's easier within a grouping or with a group of alike. Maybe regionally, with those of the similar development level or cultural level, but with similar thinking and some aims and ideas. But to conclude and not to complicate too much, there is an obvious need for more creativity and vision, or in other words, more sophisticated leadership. Here I would conclude, and thank you very much. And I'm ready for answers about Croatia.
Thank you very much, His Excellency. And yeah, hopefully we are still moving while we are at the edge, but not to fall into the cliff. And yeah, I'm even more optimistic right now hearing the second input, because from the first presentation we could learn that humanity is not hopeless and Kantian ideas still matter. And right now we've heard that the tariffs can soon go away, which I think would be rather good for global trade and for humanity. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Ambassador Q. Doc Hong. So His Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I must, before starting my presentation, I would like to, to express my deep appreciation to Ferenc Mladić, the Director General of the IASK, and then all the members. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I'm very much privileged to be here and then to share my view on East Asia and Indo-Pacific with you. We've been through, for 2 days, we are talking about, how the mega kind of, the Trump narratives, hurting, the pride of Europe, as well as the possibility of the cooperation between Europe and, the United States. The same goes to the East Asia. I just, stand up and then speak, quickly. Yeah. Can I use some? Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to tell you about the global economies and geopolitical tension in the Trump era of the East Asia. And then I will share with you South Korea's strategy to my best knowledge. And then not only the Europeans, though you probably ask the same question, why East Asia is a target of Trump's tariff war? And then the Korea has the surplus of the trade surplus, 66 billion against the United States. Mr. Trump doesn't like to see that happen. Okay, so that's the very easy things. And then also we are working very hard to get good, close relationship with the United States. And then also we are, the blood sharing, the alliances. We fought against, Russia, and then also the China as well as North Korea during the Korean War. We really appreciate the United States' sacrifice and dedication for saving Korea. But we don't really appreciate, and then when the Mr. President, the Trump, the mention about the Korean situation, in the Union address that he said that the Koreans are ripping us up. We are unfairly benefiting the United States. We don't think so. So we are working very hard, and then we try to reduce our trade surplus in a way that we can compromise and then also the win-win with the United States. That's our the kind of the plan. And then Trump has dropped the references to East Asian allies as the linchpin or cornerstone, instead arguing they unfairly benefit the United States, as I just mentioned to you. And then he uses blunt messaging like declaring that they need us, but we do not need them. So that kind of the sentiment or the rhetoric, I know why he did say that, to mobilize American people for his line of the policy. But it hurts the broken-hearted Koreans, because we thought that the United States are truly helper as well as rescuer, as well as good friend of us. So I just warning that the North Korea driving a wedge between the United States, Washington, and Korea. So they try to seize the opportunity to discord among Seoul and Washington and Tokyo to advance its own agenda. So that's what we have to worry about it. So, the ripple effects of Trump's tariffs already, we can feel that. The Bank of Korea forecast that, Trump's tariffs are expected to shave 0.1% of South Korea's GDP in 2025 and 0.4% in 26. So you may think, this is normal, but Korea is the country we used to, we are very much accustomed to have 7 to 8% of, the annual grosses. So now the people are, complaining about what is happening. The 0.1% is no future for all of us. So also, it's not for the Korea only the problem. The EU auto exporters at risk. According to Wall Street Journal recently, they say the 20% drop in U.S. auto demand could cut Hungary's GDP by 0.24%. It's not only Hungary, it's Slovakia, Germany, Sweden, Czech, and all of the countries. And then I tell you the statistics the last year. They congratulate Hungary because the Hungary maintained the 1 billion euro in FDI, for second consecutive years. But 80% of the FDI is coming from the East Asia, including China, Korea, and Japan. China, accounts for about the 50% of the FDI, but Korea only. We are having about 25% of the investment in Hungary. So if something happened in East Asia, we can hardly support the Hungarian economy by investing here. So I just try to tell you that the Korea is 8,000 kilometers away, but we are not disconnected to the Europe. So as you see, the North Korea send their forces to Ukraine, right? So they're sending about 12,000 soldiers to assist Russia to fight against Ukraine in Kursk area, and then the fight is all over, but they decide to remain in Ukraine. And then the day before yesterday, Mr. Sergei Shoigu, the former Minister of Defense of the Putin, he came to Pyongyang and then decided to bring more the engineering battalions, the 1,000 of the battalion engineers, and then also 5,000 more soldiers for construction. So they decide to remain in Kursk area to have the mine works and then also some infrastructure building. So that you may think that it's for themselves, Russia and North Korea, but this is a huge implication for East Asia because North Korea keep asking in return for their sacrifices and services. They are demanding lots of cash incentives as well as military technology, from North Korea, Russia to North Korea. So that's why we are concerning about the kind of ripple effects from the Russia, North Korean, the engagement in the Ukraine. So the Korea's position is that we are not, escalating like the North Korea. So we are quadrupling our humanitarian assistance in Ukraine, but we maintain the principle that not providing any ammunition, artillery shells to Ukraine forces like Hungary. So, but we are very much pressured to what to do for the next time because already the North Korea, I'm gonna show you. So they keep asking the Moscow and then also Beijing. They try to strengthen their strategic partnership. On the 18th, the May 11th, the Xi Jinping visit to the Moscow on May 8th, marking the 80th World War II Victory Day in Moscow. The day made that announcement that they jointly addressed that They are opposing the NATO eastward expansion, the nuclear sharing, as a U.S. missile defense, Indo-Pacific strategy, and AUKUS. So that kind of the strengthening together with Beijing and North Korea and Moscow really gives some lot of security implications for not only Korea and Japan and peace-loving countries in Indo-Pacific. So this is a waking up call for EU and NATO, including Hungary. So we should give some action for not happening. The continuing this kind of practice. But as you know, the United Nations and then international society, though we haven't done anything, prevent that happen again. So that's alarming us. And then geopolitical instability threaten the Indo-Pacific's critical semiconductor hub. And then the Korea is not only the problem. Taiwan will be the next problem. So as the previous speaker mentioned about, if the Iranians decide to, to shut down the Hormuz Strait, 75% of all the oils comes from the Middle East that goes through the Hormuz. So they will be in big trouble. Not only Korea, Japan. I told you the story that about a couple of months ago, when the Red Sea was stopped by some geopolitical tension. The Suzuki Motors here, they stopped the factory operation for the 2 weeks. Now, this is serious happening. The Japanese are all prepared for the Japanese, but they never expect that happen again. So that's why it caused a lot of the problem for Korea as well as Japan. So now the Korean companies are sending their own materials from South Asia, Africa. Here, we are from having the guests from South Africa, but they're also going up to the Netherlands and then goes to the Hungary or Slovakia and Czech. So it costs 50% more the cost than before. So it is going to be a huge problem for East Asia because Korea and Japan is kind of engine of growth for the economy in the whole of the world. So that's why we are keep worrying about it. And then I just mentioned that the Shoigu met with Kim Jong-un, and then intelligence source informed us that the Russia already paid $7.2 billion to the North Korea. So North Korea has not have any reason to stop this the business. So they keep sending the manpower and they get return the technology as well as a cash incentive. That's the way the game goes. And then so what are you gonna do? So I just tell you that Korea's the potential strategic priorities. We need to maintain strong alliance by upgrading the Republic of Korea, U.S. Nuclear deterrence consultation mechanism. We hope so. So that's why we keep asking Washington to meet with us quickly as much as possible. So deepen trilateral security cooperation with Japan, Iraq, U.S. This is very important. My previous government, they tried to improve the relationship with the Japan. How the animals, the relationship between the Korea and Japan. We don't have to explain that. But the previous president met the former Prime Minister Kishida Nobuo 12 times in 2 years. So that's shuttle diplomacy, we said. So no matter how we have the previous garbage of history of the animosity, so we have to go forward to look for the future. That's important decision. So we hope the new government will continue that kind of practices. And then also expand defense and security partnership with the key allies in Europe. This is my point today. So we are looking very much to cooperate with the European Unions and Hungary and other countries in the Balkan areas too, including Hungary. So that's why we are really the mean to the contribute the security of the Europe. So tell us how we can help you. This is not only my attitude. My government always asks you how we can help Hungary, how we can help other countries, how we can help Western Europe. So this is our the big kind of the attitude and then also calculus of how we are cooperating with the European partners. Also, the most important thing is we have to enhance our own defense capabilities. So you saw the GBU 57 yesterday on the TV, right? That's the first time to show all the world public. So we developed the similar bombs already. So we call it Hyunmoo 5. So we are doing everything we can do possible because we have to protect ourselves. We cannot rely upon the United States and China, Japan and other countries, the EU. So we have to create our own capability. That's why we look very much, working very hard to increase our own capability. And then also increasing our burden sharing. The United States hinted that they will probably withdraw 4,500 US soldiers stationed in Korea, which means the 1/3, because the United States stationed in Korea about 28,500, but almost 1/3. But they told this, this is kind of a relocation plan. So we understand that. But we would like to increase our own burden sharing. We are now paying $1 billion to the United States. Not a small money. But I understand the United States, particularly Mr. Trump, don't like that. The country like Korea should pay more. So we'll do that. But the problem is, we want to have some increasing our own maneuverability. So we are not, increase, the portion of our defense burden, because we are asked to do so. So we would like to say, what do you want to in return? And then that's why the Japan is, the prime minister, for the first time, Ishiba, they decide to not to go to Washington, D.C. to discuss about the 2+2 meeting scheduled on July 1st. So that's why the same kind of nuances. So the Japan also said that we are trying to find a way to to solve the problem, but we are not asked to forced to do it by the Washington. That's kind of the attitude we are finding in East Asia, and then also I just tell you that the 24th. So we have Nobel Prize, the winner of the economic part, the James Robinson, Darren Acemoglu. They say the author of the Why Nations Fail, but I think the Why Nations Succeed, if we explain to Korea's success story, but I don't know whether we can do it under the Trump administration. But hopefully, we'll continue to develop ourselves, despite many difficulties. So the Korea strategy toward new protectionism. So I'm going to share with you. We have to diversify the export market while investing further into the U.S. I don't know we can catch 2 rabbits one time, same time, but we'll do our best. And then we need to leverage Korea's competitive strengths, because United States ask us to, MRO of the shipbuilding industry, and then they ask us to LNG infrastructure in Alaska. So also, this is a very interesting story, because we suddenly find out United States needs more eggs. So we mobilize, all the eggs, billion eggs, to the United States. So because that's what the United States consumers need. So we will do our best anyway. And then the third one, we try to, we call 3 I's frameworks. We need to continue to innovate. And then also we need to more infusion. So our own ways, and then so better ways of the other countries. And then investment further into the resources, human resource. That's our, the secrets. And then also the diplomatic alliances. We need to establish multilateral technology sharing platforms with the United States, EU, and free world partners to co-develops critical technologies on the shared governance, the principles. And then also the last one, the cultural diplomacy, already mentioned by the previous speaker, but we are relying upon the K-dramas, K-foods, K-cosmetics, and K-pop. This is beyond tariffs, US tariffs. So hopefully we can expand this kind of things. And then the world is more difficult and dangerous, volatile. We say VUCA, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and BANI, the brittle, anxious, non-linear, incomprehensible. But in the new era, I think a deepened multilateral cooperation with the strategic partners is very much essential. That's why I'm here, and I need your assistance. And then a unified, courageous stance is required to navigate and overcome shared challenges. So this is my, and then I do not want to repeat because my previous speakers already talked about the risk and threat. And then, the one last thing I would like to say is, the defending South Korea's young democracy. You heard about the news, the December 3rd of last year, my former president tried to, the martial law, announced the martial law. So some people support him, but some don't. But finally, our constitutional court upholds South Korean president impeachment. So 8-0. So so even though the half of the people don't like the ruling, but we just because of the democracy, we try to keep the democracy. So we don't argue with that. So we have a new president, shows up, and then also we are beginning of the era. So Lee Jae-myung, the former mayor of Seongnam and the governor of Gyeonggi province, has assumed the presidency. And then he was the human rights lawyer and the labor rights advocate. And then he still commit himself to strengthening alliances, enhancing regional stability, and fostering the new era of engagement. But unfortunately, he decided not to come over here. The NATO conferences, because he thought there are huge the dilemmas or challenges we are facing with the Iran the crisis. That's why he unfortunately decided not to come. Anyway, the Korea is country invaded by 931 times through neighboring countries. So mostly I don't say as a diplomat to which country will that be, but we've been survived, and then hope we can survive with your help and with your assistance, with your partnership. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, His Excellency. Thank you for reminding us, and it's, I think, a very important point, that the enemies of the democratic world are teaming up, and they are posing an existential challenge for global democracy. Also, thank you for reminding us of the cultural diplomacy of South Korea. My 10-year-old daughter is a big fan of Blackpink, so our family is also a recipient of the best of the soft power of South Korea. And also just remind ourselves, I just would like to remind ourselves that while everyone is talking about Chinese investments in Central Eastern Europe and in the Western Balkans, there are countries in the Indo-Pacific that are, in fact, according to the figures, more important investors than China, and South Korea is important to be mentioned here. So, yeah, and also it was an important thing that you mentioned also, that new friendships can be formed even with neighbors with whom one have a complicated relationship in the past. So, and last but not least, I would like to give the floor to Tamás Pesuth. So if you were lacking figures in the talk so far on economy, you definitely will receive more. So Tamás, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, indeed, I have a lot of numbers, and before going to the numbers, and I made lots of notes, so I tried to fit into this 10 minutes framework. But yeah, first of all, I would like to say something about the event. So this is called a summer university. I really feel the summer, so especially here as well. But I would like to congratulate to Ferenc because of the intellectual niveau. I really feel that that's the institute, but I'm really feeling that I am at the university because it's really like this free discussion and from a multidisciplinary point of view that I'm happy not just to participate but to listen to different approaches. Actually, many times it's quite boring when only diplomats talk to diplomats, when only economists talk to economists, when only international relations experts talk to international relations experts, because there is, there has to be some value added, some extra point of view. So I'm really honored to be in this panel, not mentioning that I visited Zagreb University a couple of years ago, and I knew how respected Ambassador Andrlić is in Croatia. I was in Korea University last year, so I know how top intellectual Ambassador Hong is in Korea, so I really felt some kind of pressure. But even though we discussed that Boglarka seemed the youngest so far at the panel discussion, I am so far the youngest in the panel discussion, so it also means that I have to be very optimistic, and I try to be optimistic. So first of all, and because we are going to speak about numbers, I don't want you to be bored, and I really liked when Ambassador Andrlić said that he has a conceptual paper. So he tries to speak about concepts. And in the era of artificial intelligence, it's very important to know that what is knowledge, and when we think, like, how do we think and what matters, what is important. And in order to achieve that, we have to go to the basics. So that's why I'm going to go to the basics. So first of all, just to ask some questions. Everyone knows who is or what is your favorite food, right? And you know probably how much does it cost if you want to eat it in a restaurant. So my question is that would you buy this food, your favorite food, if the price would be double or if the price would be triple? Just think of it, okay? This is one question. The other question is to understand the complexity of these topics that we are speaking about. So people here, all the audience, I think, okay, let me be pessimistic. Based on our intellectual capacity, I would say we belong at least to the top 0.1% of the Hungarian population. Maybe I could say top 0.0.1. However, I'm asking now some questions, so it will be about numbers. Do you know the worth of 10 euros? Yeah. Do you know the worth of 100 euros? Do you know the worth of 1,000 euros? I think everybody so far. Do you know the worth of 1 million euros? This is where people or most of the people will lose the sentiment. And then do you know how much is 10 million euros, 100 million euros, 1 billion euros, 100 billion euros, and 500 billion euros? So when we speak about more than 1 billion euros, we kind of lose the reality. We kind of lose the connection towards these numbers. But I'm going to speak about these numbers. So this is just to think about it, like how complex it is, because the first question what I asked, like, do you know your favorite food and would you buy it if it would be double price? You could easily make the decision. But if I then ask a question, okay, should we increase the military spending from 80 billion to 200 billion or 100 billion for 200 billion, we might say, after a while, yes, why not? But if I ask you, like, okay, would you pay 3 times more for your favorite food in your restaurant? You might say, oh, no, then, or maybe I will eat that food, but later. So this is why the multidisciplinary approach is important, because if I talk to my colleagues about GDP or debt to GDP or per GDP, we just speak about numbers. For example, 4.5%, 3.4%, 2.3%. These are actually the military spending. So for example, Poland spends 4.1%, US 3.4%, UK 2.3%. If we speak about money-wise, the UN spending is 1,000 billion. You can memorize, but you don't feel. Germany, 88 billion, UK, 81 billion, Hungary, 4.7 billion. Okay, we spoke about these numbers, and we might agree that, yeah, we have to increase the military spending per GDP. But if you compare it, so the US spending on military is roughly, I'm speaking about roughly numbers because the USD is also changing, 10 or 11 times higher than the German, the US. Germany and UK, that's roughly 20 times higher than the Hungarian. So it means that the US military spending is 200 years of Hungary's military spending. So roughly, like 200 times more than the Hungarian. So you have to feel the differences when we speak about this GDP or military spending per GDP ratios. So if, and there was a news about that, that the NATO countries agree on spending 5% of the GDP on military expenditures, that would mean that Germany would spend only on military roughly more than 200 billion USD. That is the 1 year GDP of Hungary. That Germany would spend under 4% of the military, with everything, with functioning Budapest, all the small cities, like for 1 year. So from 1st of January until the end of December, 1 year, what is happening in Hungary. So, and this would be done roughly the same amount. So I think it's very important to speak, that's why, about these kind of nominal values, not just, okay, 2, 2.5, because then I say 2.5, 2.6, 3 point, and nobody is interested in that, but there is a deeper meaning behind that. So why did I bring these numbers? Because these numbers are very important, and I'm now switching back to percentages. So European Union, United States, China. If I speak about the nominal GDP, the European Union, like the 27 countries, are roughly 20 trillion USD. United States is 30 trillion, China is 19.2 trillion. So that means from the world, so from the global, so from the world economy, US is roughly 21% of the whole economy. China is a little bit less than the EU, so the EU is 14%, and China is 13 point something %. So it means that we are the 3 top global players, but we can see that there is a total restructuring of the world economy. I was a little bit surprised that I just heard the artificial intelligence today and yesterday twice, and before I came here, I checked the program of IASC and this panel, and I opened the ChatGPT, like the artificial intelligence platform, and I put in the description of the panel. And I wrote, hello, I'm going to participate in this panel. I will have a 15 minute or 10 to 15 minutes talk. What do you suggest to speak about? And I was so surprised, like ChatGPT told me, like greeting the audience and then speak about the decline of rule-based multilateralism. Second, speak about the strategic reconfiguration of supply chains and alliances. Actually, I wanted to speak both of them. And then like for the third point, he said, but I didn't speak about myself in that conversation. Based on your professional experience, you should also speak about future cooperation opportunities between European Union and Korea. But it was, I mean, I didn't copy that part that you will be in the panel. So it's, it was quite interesting. I want to speak about these 2 things, actually, the trade. And a little bit also about this GDP. So the GDP is very important. It was created after the crisis in 1929 in the US, and the main purpose was to be able to quantify the economy. It's simple and very useful. But the problem is that it's kind of fetishized, so we put too much attention to that. Just to tell you an example, we are here in Kőszeg, and Ferenc spoke about the bombing, and that these buildings are here. Yeah. it's just a theoretical example. If we bomb down this building and the synagogue and all the buildings in Kőszeg, just really bomb down, and then the government has to build these buildings again, then in that year the GDP will grow. Because when we speak about destruction, if we destruct something, so for example, if we cut out the trees, it's not in the GDP. Actually, if we cut out the trees, so if there is a deforestation, that is something that is increasing the GDP. And we are happy about that, but if we think about it, that's not a good thing. So that's why I think the measurement, or to thinking about how to measure things in the future is very important. Especially I liked in the previous talk when Professor Judy spoke about the mental health or the mental part, because if we speak about the crisis, it's not, I think it's not on this BlackRock webpage that I want to speak about that, but in Europe and in everywhere in the developed world, we can see a fertility crisis. And this kind of fertility crisis is related to the future. So what are the expectations of the people? What are the circumstances for the families to raise their children? Can we have children, grandchildren under this climate change that we can have? So there are really, really pressing issues. So, but that's something else that is also related to the topic, but let's go back to the trade. So, for me, it helped a lot to understand the trade policy. I participated in a forum, I think 8 or 9 years ago. It was in Riga, Latvia, and I don't remember his name, but he was at that time the United States ambassador to the European Union, and he spoke about the TTIP. And you also attend lots of lectures, lots of seminars, but I remember one sentence that he said. And this sentence was that trade is not about commerce, it's about strategic choices. And somehow it burnt into my mind, like, okay, so trade is not about commerce, it's about strategic choices. So it means that the trade policy is the expression of political and strategic will. And this is what we see now, that there is a change, a shift in trade policies. Gergely, I think he's not here now, but he spoke about the importance of trade policy. Yes, and in the previous decades, trade was important because trade was about efficiency. It is more efficient to have the production in China, it is more efficient to have the production somewhere else. But now, the priorities changed. It's not about efficiency, it's about security. And because of this change of priorities, we can see the kind of a new structuring, a restructuring of the world economic order. And it also means that there will be a comeback of industrial policies. So when we speak about industrial policies, we mean that what role do the industries play in a nation's economy, or for example in the economy of the European Union. So that's why the military industry is of crucial importance. Take a look just, for example, on the car industry. So now we are buying more and more electric vehicles. If you take a look at the sales, like the sales of the German car manufacturers, it's decreasing. But if we invest a lot into military, like these factories maybe somehow can survive because it might be a chance that from the production, instead of cars, we will produce something else. I have so many things to say, but what I would like to say is Europe and the European Union has to find itself again. Someone mentioned Mario Draghi, and Draghi had this report on European Union competitiveness. In this report, it was this sentence, I quote him: either we equip ourselves with the tools of power, or we will be the playground of powers. So this is what the European Union has to do. I was so happy that everyone here in the panel was rather optimistic, even though we will see that the circumstances are not so optimistic. So can I ask you to go down a little bit with this just about risks, because Ambassador Andrlić also mentioned the risk. So this is a company, BlackRock. BlackRock is the biggest asset manager in the world. So if someone deals with finance, it's very important to see that what are the risks in the global financial world and in the global economy. As you can see, the first is global trade protectionism, likelihood high. Next one, Middle East regional war, likelihood high. This was published actually in April, end of April. Next one, US-China strategic competition, likelihood high. Global technology decoupling, likelihood high. Major cyber attacks, likelihood high. Major terror attacks, likelihood high. So far, 6 high likelihood one. Next one, Russia-NATO conflict, likelihood medium. Emerging markets political crisis, likelihood medium. North Korea conflict, likelihood medium. And the last one is European fragmentation, likelihood low. I would like to say that that is very good that the likelihood is low, because years ago the likelihood was medium. So it means that maybe because of the pressure that we have, the Europeans, like the immune system of the European Union started to work. I think I'm over this 10 minutes limit, but I'm happy to answer the questions. And I have to be positive. So the Draghi's report's name was Empowering Europe to Succeed in the 21st Century. Thank you.